Kenya? Is it easier to get a bank account, get access to banking? Is it because of the digital payment system? Are people, how are you storing the currency? Is it on that? I mean, I guess explain to me a little bit better how the system works with your digital um, system that you guys have. How does it work? Do you have a bank account? Do you store it
Mhm.
on your mobile? I mean, I just would be
Yeah.
very curious. I don't understand exactly how the system works.
Okay, so M-Pesa uses. Okay, so what made M-Pesa really grow? M-Pesa took advantage of the USSD platform. So USSD is what I think uses for the SMS text messages. So the banking system, you can walk into a bank and you can be able to get a bank account, but as I said, most are not educated, or I've talked to people who they fear walking into a bank because first of all the language barrier. If you understand Swahili, you look at the bank, you're like, oh, probably I don't belong there. So when M-Pesa came, it was like a game changer because M-Pesa also enabled savings. So you can be able to now receive money on your phone, and you can just save it on your M-Pesa. So you'd have lots of people having lots of cash in their M-Pesa accounts. But there's a limit to that, of course, because you don't want to put banks out of business. So maybe banks are used for international transfers, the RTGS and the SWIFT, accessibility to loans. But yeah, that's also a point of you can a point of argument because as I said, loan accessibility, there's a few questions in it that someone may be able to answer. It's not just accessible to everyone. But the banking system, how the banking system really, I can say, just facilitates cross-border remittance as such. Internally, it's M-Pesa. Yeah, M-Pesa. You go
Is
to
it
a shop, you can be able to pay with M-Pesa in any merchant. Any merchant in Kenya will accept M-Pesa.
Is it, what about privacy with it? I mean, is M-Pesa used by the government to track, or is the government involved with it, I guess? Or was it a private phenomenon that it came about? Like just the origin of how the payment system came about? Is the government using it? Is there privacy with it? Are people concerned at all with the privacy aspects of it? Or just talk to that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned because at least until I found out about Bitcoin is when I started questioning M-Pesa on that because we were okay. So M-Pesa is run by a private company. This is Safaricom. It came as a telecommunication company, so we already had the numbers. We had the phone numbers. They were just integrating a new service into it, and we hope that there is no surveillance, but of course, where there's a company in control of your transactions or can be able to view your transactions, government interference is inevitable. And I even believe if the government would like to implement CBDC, M-Pesa will be like a very good platform for them to work with because it's already in use by most
Mm.
of Kenyans, and privacy should be a concern. But then again, people are already in a position where it serves them. They really cannot question whether the government will be checking out your financial transactions or not. And I think that's where we're at. So it's been running for all these years. Of course, there are cases of fraud, that identity theft. There's a loss of funds. So lots of complaints on that, but it's the only running option we have for now. So most of these issues are just brushed off, and it's where we're at with it.
What about tax on the tax side? How did taxes work in Kenya where you're at? Are they going after people in terms of, is it a sales tax? Is it income tax, property tax,
Yeah.
capital gains taxes? I mean, what are the different types of taxes, and how does that work within the digital payment system, remitting those?
Okay. So income tax is voluntary. So for us, I don't know. The bank doesn't is not in charge of your tax. You are in charge. So it's voluntary system. You have to go and declare your tax returns every year before June, and with that declaration of tax. there's capital gains tax. Okay, the corporate tax 30%, capital gains tax 15%, ranging depending. Um, I think for taxation, there is a challenge though that was recently. There's a problem. Okay, there's something that they're contesting that was recently introduced. They now want to start taxing money that we send via M-Pesa. So I'm sending you money, I'm sending my mother money, but tax has been introduced into it. That's excess tax. We have VAT, value added tax, of course, importation and exportation away from the digital system. So the bank has to be involved there. But in terms of using M-Pesa, introduction of tax. But there's a challenge, of course, as I've mentioned. You will need to know whether this person is sending money as a result of a transaction or a gift, or it's dire need. You're supposed to pay the hospital, then you're having your money taxed. So that is one thing that is it's being I think it's being fought over in court. The government wanted to introduce it, and but besides that, all the other taxation, it's declare your returns and your file and tax is paid from that.